Hi, everyone. Welcome to Thought IQ and Making 2019 Different. I'm your co-presenter, Angie Yazelitis, and I'm really excited today to present with the owner of Thought IQ, Doug Hershey. If you don't already know Doug, I'm going to give him a proper introduction. In 1984, Doug Hershey went to work for a local startup called New Pig Corporation. So if you're from central Pennsylvania, I'm sure you're familiar with New Pig. There, Doug actually experienced what it's like to take a company from scratch to employing over 500 people. New Pig became the #1 brand in its industry and passionately served thousands of companies worldwide. So, as you can expect, as the organization grew, so did Doug. He went from managing product development to directing an award-winning catalog marketing department, and then actually leading direct sales and customer service teams. So as executive VP, Doug served on the New Pig board and multiple subsidiary boards. When Doug left New Pig, he decided to take that expertise and really put it to good use, and he started his own business called Thought IQ. He also went on to become a certified 4 Decisions business coach. So, what Doug is really passionate about is partnering with happy, humble, and hungry for growth business leaders and their leadership teams to scale their businesses. So today, we hope to give you just a little taste of that. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. This presentation is being recorded. Most of our invitees actually requested recording versus attending, so we're going to be sending this out. However, you can chat with us via the chat feature, and we'll have some questions at the end. So again, you can also, whether you're listening to the recording or not, you can email Doug for the Rockefeller Habits worksheet, which goes along with this presentation today, and he'll be happy to send that out to you. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Doug.
All right, thanks, Angie, very much. Well, welcome, everyone, and thank you for investing your time with us today. So I'm ready to go ahead and just get started. There are 4 decisions that every growth company must get right. It's people, strategy, execution, and cash. Today, we're going to talk about 10 habits that will improve your execution if you apply these diligently in your business. As Angie said, at the end, we'll have some time for question and answers. And also at the end of the webinar, I'm going to have a complimentary offer for you that might be beneficial. All right, so the Rockefeller Habits is a checklist which highlights 3 execution disciplines: priorities, metrics, and the communication rhythms. Verne Harnish has adapted these disciplines from the leadership and management principles used by John D. Rockefeller, one of the richest men in history. In the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, the secret to getting results that last is to never stop making improvement. You see, habits don't add up, they compound. I want to share a quick story with you about Alcoa. 15,000 workers had just come off strike. They're losing market share. Their new product introductions are underwhelming, and the safety issues were unacceptable. Paul O'Neill, a Washington insider, was hired to turn the organization around. When he met with the media investors, he said, "Our priority is to be the safest company in America." He said nothing about growing revenue and profits, which concerned the investors. Well, he was about establishing a new habit within his organization, and here's what it was. If there is an accident, you as the manager or the leader of that team have 24 hours to report your incident and how you're going to prevent that accident from happening in the future. And all of those who participated in this habit would be considered for promotion. You see, he changed employees' behavior by changing their habits. And results? Well, within 1 year, they hit record profits, and the accident rate was 1/20th their industry average just a few years later. Currently, there are 40,000 companies in 6 different countries using Rockefeller habits. A few habits, well practiced, create beauty, efficiency, and profitability in a business. And that's what we mean when we say routine will set you free. So let's go ahead and dig in. The first habit is the executive team is healthy and aligned. As the leadership team goes, so goes the rest of your company. You cannot build a great company that will endure through time and deliver the results you dream of as leaders if you're not aligned. That's why this habit is number 1. It is the most important habit. I like this statistic. Only 22% of employees agree they have clear direction for their company. If this is the case, you're not aligned. Is your leadership team healthy and aligned? Do you and are you holding each other accountable? Is conflict encouraged? And are you committed to achieving results? They say you want people to weigh in so that they buy in. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to score this habit number 1. And as you will note on your handout, there are 4 bullet points underneath those. That just gives you an opportunity to kind of review if you're doing these things might help you with the score. But I want you to score from 0 to 10. The first habit. On 0 is that we're not doing anything there. 10 is that, hey, we're doing everything and it's awesome and just it's a great habit for us. So go and take a minute. I'll give you about 10 to 15 seconds and just put a score beside number 1, anywhere from 0 to 10. All right, habit number 2. Everyone is aligned with the number 1 thing that needs accomplished this quarter. Research by Gallup said that 65% of chief strategy officers said they don't think priorities are clear. Well, most of us probably don't have a chief strategy officer, but this is embarrassing. Many organizations have strategic plans and goals, but they struggle to execute. How about you? Is execution a weakness in your organization? We like to break down yearly goals into 90-day priorities that must be accomplished. We then assign accountability to one person with a targeted due date. The way we start this is we ask your team, what is the most important thing that your organization must accomplish in the next 90 days that will drive your company forward? So we'll brainstorm, we'll then select our top, and then we'll focus on no more than 3 to 5 priorities per quarter. I actually listened to a coach today, and he said 2 to 3. So the point here is focus. Focus. Where can we have discipline? So we would create a plan. We would make sure that plan is well communicated throughout the entire organization, and then everyone knows exactly how they fit into achieving those quarterly objectives. So go ahead and take a few seconds. Number 2, how would you score your organization on habit number 2 on a scale of 0 to 10?
Can I ask a question, Doug?
Sure.
For the audience? Well, maybe they don't care, but my question is, are you scoring it if you're looking at it departmentally or for the entire organization?
I would think the entire organization.
Okay.
Yeah. Except for obviously the first one is all about just your leadership team.
Okay.
Okay. Habit number 3. Communication rhythm is established and information moves accurately and quickly. What do you think is one of the biggest complaints we hear in organizations? Well, you're right. It's a lack of communication, and a lack of communication will hurt your execution. So we solve that problem with regularly occurring meetings with specific agendas. So we have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual meetings. One of the meetings that we believe everyone in your organization should be in is a daily huddle. Why? Well, because there's awesome benefits for being in a huddle. First, it will improve the communication of your team. 2, it speeds up decision-making, problem-solving, and info sharing. 3, it creates peer-to-peer accountability. And then finally, it will just build teamwork within the department and also between departments. All right, so I know you're asking me, okay, who has huddles? Well, John D. Rockefeller used to walk to work with his brothers. T. Boone Pickens has lunch every day with his leadership team. And the Ritz-Carlton, with 40,000 employees, every day they review their customer service opportunities and review one of 16 service principles that they desire to honor. So go ahead and score habit number 3 about your communication rhythms within your organization from a scale of 0 to 10. All right, habit number 4. Every facet of the organization has a person assigned with accountability for hitting your goals. Okay, so when I talk about facets, here's what I mean. Your key processes. So for example, you might have a customer acquisition process, a safety process, a fulfillment process, a sales process. Typically, companies should have 6 to 8 really important processes to their organization. And if you look down on your bullet points, that's what the PAC little e stands for. It's just a process accountability exercise. The next facet is key functions and role. We believe that every function in the organization, meaning marketing, product development, the CEO, sales reps, everybody should have a measure for that role. And that is what, number 1 is what the FAC little e exercise refers to. So it's the functions in your organization. And then finally, we recommend that you look at your financial statements and find those critical line items that are really important. So it could be overhead, it could be inventory, it could be accounts receivable, it could be cash, but then assign someone accountable for that. Our belief is that teams cannot be accountable, that individuals are accountable. So that's why we're assigning it to the individuals. All right, so go ahead and take a moment and rank habit number 4.
A question that we have with regards to this, Doug, is this function accountability chart. Is that something an organization can create, or is that something that is a formal process that you are trained in, that you would teach?
Yeah, that's something we would teach in an exercise that we do with the leadership team.
Okay.
Because there's like other questions that we like to ask as we start to identify and things that we're looking for that might throw up a red flag.
Okay, but with regards to this exercise, we're just looking at where we think we are right now, like with assigning the right people doing the right thing.
Yes, I think the key is, do you have your functions identified, and do you have someone that's accountable for each function? So it's not 2 people and it's not a team, it's one person.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay, number 5. Ongoing employee input is collected to identify obstacles and opportunities. Listen, employees are a wealth of information, and we believe and we challenge executives to regularly talk with employees. And if you're going to target a group, specifically talk to those who are dealing one-on-one with your customers. So it could be your customer service team, it could be your sales team. What are they learning about the competition? Or it could be a tech department group that serves your customers. Did you know the number 1 reason employees don't take more initiative at work is because their leaders fail to get their input before making decisions? And then finally, note this last statistic. 17% of employees are highly disengaged. Well, that must cost your organization, right? Yes, for every $10,000 in payroll, it costs your company $3,400. So for example, if just to get a size here, so if you had 100 employees and the average pay was $50,000 per employee, the highly disengaged employees are costing you $289,000. All right, so take a moment, score number 5 on how well your organization does at collecting information from your employees. All right, habit number 6. Reporting and analysis of customer feedback data is as frequent and accurate as financial data. We believe executives should be talking to customers preferably once a week. Listen, the desk is a dangerous place from which to run your business. You need to visit your customers, call your customers. You need to visit your suppliers, you need to call your suppliers. In addition to the one-on-ones, we believe you should be regularly surveying your customers on a consistent basis as an organization. You can use a simple process like the Net Promoter Score, which is basically asks 2 questions. You would ask your client or your customer on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend us to a friend or a peer? They'll give you a score, and then you just ask, why did you give us that score? So, gathering information from your customers is a critical process, and it needs to be trusted within your organization. On the screen, we had what we call the 4Q conversation that you can have with your customers. And this is just taking 4 questions that if you were going to make phone calls that we would recommend you could ask for starters. But so it's just asking the client, how are you doing? What is going on in your industry? What are you hearing about the competition? And then how are we doing? So go ahead and score habit number 6 on how good you are doing as an organization, regularly obtaining feedback from your customers.
I guess a comment I would like to make there, maybe it's a question to you, which is, I've seen something similar, but a lot of times it's the executive assigning somebody else to do this. Sounds like you're saying the executive needs to be the one to pick up the phone or go out and do this.
Yeah, so there's 2 parts. We believe the executive should have one-on-one conversations with customers and suppliers and, kind of prioritize that. And then the second part is, as an organization, we need to have quantity so that we have a lot of surveys going on. So then we can take specific action as it relates to the results.
But it's not a total handout from the executive, like they are doing at least one.
Yeah, we definitely want them. We want them to make it a habit. It's like, Rockefeller habit checklist. It's like, we want you doing that on a regular basis.
That's really awesome.
Okay, habit number 7. Core values and purpose are alive in your organization. What if I walked around your facility and asked your customers to recite your core values and purpose? What would I hear? Your core values are those closely held beliefs or that handful of rules that you have in place and you live by every day. Your core purpose is your reason for being. It's the difference that you are making in the world. So here's a great example. Do any of you shop at Zappos? Tony C., the CEO of Zappos, spoke at one of our coaches' summits about how critically important values and cultures are to them as an organization. After a new employee has worked at the organization for an extended period of time, get this, they offer a $2,500 departure bonus. That's right, you can stay and work here, or you can leave and we'll give you $2,500. Now, why would they do this? It's just because they want to make sure that the individuals that are working at their organization have bought into their core values and to their culture. So the question for us becomes, how committed are you, or how committed are we to hiring people that match your core values? So go ahead and take a moment to score habit number 7. Moving right along, habit number 8. Employees can articulate the key components of the strategy. Every employee wants to know where we are headed, how we are going to get there, and how their role fits into that direction. So your employees need to know, 1, the big, hairy, audacious goal. This is a term coined by Jim Collins, author of Good to Great. So computer for every desk in every home, that is Microsoft BHAG. In college, Fred DeLuca was in business class and he was working with his, creating a business plan. And his professor said to him, where do you want to be and what is your goal in 10 years? And Fred said, I want to have 32 stores in 10 years because that will help pay off my tuition. Well, that was Subway, the founder of Subway. So the BHAG is inspirational. You're not sure exactly how you're going to get there, but it drives you to greatness. And then there's the brand promise. The brand promise answers the question, why do customers buy from you? What draws them in? And what need are you fulfilling better than your competition? So an example for you is low fares, lots of flights, and lots of fun is 3 brand promises of Southwest Airlines. McDonald's would be an example of speed, is one of their brand promises. So go ahead and score habit number 8 on a scale of 0 to 10. Habit number 9, all employees can answer quantitatively whether they had a good day or week. Everybody in the organization needs a daily or weekly key performance indicator. And every employee should have 3 to 5 quarterly priorities that are clearly written and SMART. And many of you probably heard of SMART. It means that they're specific, the priorities are measurable, attainable, they're a reach, and they are time-bound. We also recommend to drive positive behavior change within your organization that employees work with a coach, a mentor, or have a peer coach within your organization. At a coaches conference, a president shared with us that he had installed red, meaning bad, and green, meaning good, red and green lights at the exit doors. So daily, he knew how his employees were feeling about their day. So go ahead and score habit number 9.
So a question we have here while they're scoring is, so with middle managers, you do think that internal or peer-to-peer coaches are okay? It doesn't always have to be an external coach. I know some people struggle with who needs the external coach versus who needs an internal coach or a peer-to-peer coach.
Yeah, I think the only recommendation I have, if you have a peer-to-peer coach, that you probably would want to go through some sort of coach's training, so you kind of have an idea of what the purpose of the peer to coach is and how you're going to work together. So yeah, and we that's some of the content that we can share with
someone.
Yes.
Organizations. Okay, awesome.
All right, and the last habit number 10. The company's plan and performance is visible to everyone. So we just recommend that you have scoreboards throughout your organization. You must keep score. People want to know, how are we doing in line? How is our performance in line with our quarterly plan? We just want to know, how are we doing? How's revenue? If we have a goal of a number of new customers, how many have we acquired? And then finally, we need to know how we will be doing. This is the definition of a leading indicator. So for example, if you were able to track the number of sales presentations that were conducted, you probably would have a good idea how many new customers you were going to acquire in the future. Or if you were able to track and say, okay, how many new product introductions are happening, it may give you an idea of what your revenue will be in the future. So we encourage you to have lagging indicators, which is like revenue and number of new customers added, and leading indicators, which are the two that I just shared, number of sales presentations and number of new product introductions. They're examples. All right, so go ahead and just document how well your organization is doing with sharing how your performance is for the organization. All right, so that wraps up the score of your 10 Rockefeller habits. So the question here becomes, what did you give your high scores and what got low scores? Did you notice, are there any patterns there? So if you got serious about instilling one of these habits over the next 90 days, which one of these 10 do you believe would be most impactful? And I'd like you to do one other thing as well. At the top of your sheet, write this down. If you nailed, let's just say, one or two of these habits, what do you believe is the potential financial impact on your organization? Okay, so I'm going to give you an action step, which I think you will find very enlightening. I want you to take this exercise back to your leadership team and have them score the Rockefeller habit. And I'm going to recommend that you do it a specific way. You get in the room with the group of you and read the habits to them, and then have them write down the number individually. Then once everyone has had a chance to write their score down, have each person share the number, and only their number, no discussion, and write it on the easel pad. Then once you've gone through all 10 habits and you have scores from every individual in the room, then discuss as a team and be ready. You're going to have differences of opinion. And then as a group, identify what you believe is the most important habit that you should work on in the next 90 days. Sometimes this can be overwhelming, and it can take 2 years for you to actually implement all of these habits. But the point here is start with the one that can have the most impactful in your organization today. And if you need help with any of this, obviously that's what I'm here for. So that's the Rockefeller habits, and I'm going to kick it over to Angie, and she's going to dig into a little deeper into the habits number 7 and 8.
Awesome. Thank you, Doug. Well, I think it's interesting because I've been doing this for Yazoo, and we've been kind of working on this webinar for a little bit of time, and I feel like I get more honest every time I go through the presentation. Like my scores have gotten lower. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but I definitely know this has been helpful for me. So the reason that we are kind of looking at number 7 and number 8 with regards to marketing, and I'm a marketing strategist by trade. I've been doing this for about 25 years in some capacity of marketing, and that is what the Yazoo group does. We are marketing strategists and implementers. So number 7 and number 8 really speak to me, and there's a reason for that. Number 7 being core values and purpose are alive in your organization. And this really goes back to what we're focusing on and getting a lot of requests with regards to looking at strategy is dealing with the millennial market. And the reason is millennials want an experience of you, and that impacts 2 facets of your organization the most, and that is marketing and recruiting. And it impacts it in more ways than you may realize. What this means is that the external millennial audience also wants to know this part of your culture, meaning the core values and purpose. And so that's really key. If you look on the screen, the fact is that millennials are leading this type of revolution. We call it a revolution because it's really a desire for work and buying to have meaning beyond just pay. So the statistic up there says 60% of millennials said this sense of purpose is part of the reason they choose to work, and it's part of the reason that they choose to buy. I find that quite interesting. So what we encourage you to do is to vet your organization digitally. And much like Doug took you through the Rockefeller habits, we want you to, really be very open as you go through this process, and also to potentially use an outsider to vet this digitally and be open to their feedback. So we say that you should do this, and then maybe an outsider should do this. And we want you to list the top 3 to 5 things that your website tells anyone going there about your culture, and the top 3 to 5 things your social pages tell anyone going there about your culture. And, we really look at this. Recruiting has become very much like marketing, because you can't recruit anymore without a digital strategy. So we look at this both from a recruiting and a marketing aspect. And here's some questions that we feel like you should ask yourself. Do you, as an organization, get engaged in things in the community? And we're going to come back to that, but that's just a question. Do you share benefits beyond pay and just traditional benefits with your potential recruiting audience? And those are things like getting involved in the community. Is there anything that you do as an organization that has purpose and meaning? Because those are the things that millennial recruits are looking for. I'm going to share a funny example with you. I was working with an organization that said one of their recruiting benefits was that they are casual and that you can work remote. So when we went out and did a digital vetting of their website and we pulled up the recruiting page, it showed the leadership team all sitting at desks in an office looking very formal in their suits. And so that led to a discussion of what is this telling the millennial audience when we're saying we're very informal and we want you to work remote. So those are the recruiting components of looking at how do people outside of your organization look at your core values and purpose being alive in the organization, and does it match up with what the internal people are saying? So what we're going to do now is we're going to move into marketing. And how does this play into your brand promise, and why does it matter? So let's delve into that. So with number 8, just as a reminder, brand promise, we talked about brand promise from internal. Do your employees know what it is? Can they repeat it to you? And Doug had you score that. We looked at brand promise in marketing is both brand promise and brand purpose. The number one thing that we tell people is your top brand promises, and I know Doug does talk about 3 brand promises, but whatever it is, 1, 2, 3 brand promises should be visible immediately, and details to that should not be more than 2 clicks away. That goes back to research that says millennials now buying they'll abandon a site if they have to dig deeper than 2 clicks. If that is important to your brand, it needs to be visible and it needs to be meeting that 2-click definition. We also tell organizations when they're going through this vetting process to address what we're calling the purpose revolution. And the purpose revolution is really part of your brand promise. This is where true engagement happens with your audience. So you want to think about, does your brand promise actually have brand purpose? And you may be thinking, why does this even matter? Well, millennials, whether they are your market now or they're going to be in 5 years, are a huge chunk of the buying population. And the difference between millennials and past markets that we really looked into in terms of research and strategy is that they actually take action with their wallet and with their decisions. So they're conscious consumers, okay, and they will buy products when they believe in the brand purpose, and they will also look and choose the least harmful alternative. Sounds kind of funny, but you want to be the least harmful choice. So if they walk in a store and they know they make a difference by shopping there, they will be back. So if your brand promise inspires them, they will also share it. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But they love to share purpose, and they love to share what they believe in. And I think that that's really key for each of us to remember, that they actually share. So if you look on the screen, it says 62% of millennials say that if a brand engages with them with purpose on social networks, they are more likely to become a loyal customer. They expect brands to not only be on social networks, but to engage them in this way. So the key component is engage them with purpose. So how do you engage millennials with purpose? The number one answer that we get from people is create a video. And that is just the start. So I'm going to tell you that's fantastic, but that's just the start. We also get ask them questions on social media to solicit feedback. That's absolutely true, but again, it's just the start. In the last couple of years, a major challenge has been for brands to understand this brand promise equals brand purpose. So to kind of paint the picture of what happened in the last 5 to 10 years, we really had, traditional marketing, it turned digital. Everybody's pretty much up to speed on that. Then we had this cause marketing, which was sort of a revolution. And that was where your organization stood behind a cause and you brought that into your marketing. That has led to the purpose revolution. So the difference between cause marketing and purpose revolution is what I'm going to go into in a little bit with some examples. But we follow one of the very large agencies that we follow, because Yazoo is truly a boutique, niche agency. We follow some very large agencies. And I love this statement. It says, brands often want to randomly pick a cause, even if they don't truly believe in it. Millennials, however, will see right through that. The future for brands and agencies alike does not lie in cause. It is rooted in purpose. We need to evolve away from cause and toward purpose. The reason is simple. People, and millennials in particular, aspire to brands which reflect fundamental attitude, a profound reason for being, a positive change they want to see in the world. I absolutely love that quote.
So Angie, just kind of maybe some clarity on that. When we were practicing, we talked a little bit about this. So the cause marketing is, I like something, and as an organization, we just give them money.
That could be a great example.
But if from a purpose standpoint, what you're saying is millennials, they want to see that you're going out and doing the Relay for Life, or they want to see that you're out there in the golf tournament, so they want to see you're out there cleaning up the lawn. Is that kind of the difference between the two?
And even extending it in the example I'm going to give, it's actually asking them to engage with you. So that's kind of the key differentiator. And it's like anything you were saying, you can't get there overnight.
Right.
It's like you take tiny steps to get there, and pretty soon you're part of this purpose revolution. But you have to start somewhere to address the millennial way of buying and how they want to be involved, even from a recruiting aspect. So that's kind of what this is about. But, again, you hit on a key point, and the differentiator is the authenticity of your message. So it's almost like they're saying, okay, you support this cause, prove it to me.
Yeah, show me.
That makes sense. It's like, show me.
Yep.
And there's a big term that we use all the time now, and it's sort of become a buzzword. I love how these things turn into buzzwords, but it's experiential marketing. They want the experience of what it is that you say you're about. They want to actually experience it. So an activity for you, and you can just sit there and kind of, jot down your thoughts. even give yourself a score on these, but it is, do you review your brand promise with your team? That was part of the Rockefeller habit too, but does your brand promise in the first place even contain a cause? And is it purposeful? So have you taken it to the next level? Then, do you really believe in your cause? And the next question is, how and where do the millennials get that message? The one that's a little bit more difficult, and this in and of itself could be, a half-day workshop, is your process and your point of sale experiential. So an example would be, I'm going to go back to the store because it's very easy for people to understand retail examples. But if you went into a store and they gave you not just a receipt, but they gave you like a symbol, an icon, something that stood for them, and asked you to hold it and share on your social media, and gave you a little postcard that said what percentage of the sale went to something, and asked you to engage in an event with them. That's sort of the experience of becoming more purposeful. So it's actually engagement at the point of sale where people truly understand, wow, I'm going to come back here because I think this is really cool. It supports something I believe in. So if you do engage millennials this way, there's just a few things that we know works and the research say works, and that is engage them quickly, just like we talked about in recruiting. Leave them with something that lasts and ask them to take part. So I'm going to give you an example that I think will kind of clarify this for you. So this is a small company example, and I'm going to go through pre-purpose. So this is when it was just cause but not purpose. So a store said that they support a children's after-school program. The store put that on their website. And the store did mention it in PR every quarter. And in that PR, they stated that their employees actually work the benefit for the cause. Now, when that same organization wanted to add purpose and really capture more of the millennial marketing, they did all the same things. They said that they supported the after-school program. It's on their website. They still mention it in PR, okay, and they still state that their employees work the cause. But now they created a video that actually shares how other people can get engaged in the cause. They created an icon that stands specifically for the cause that goes with every purchase and asks socially and on a regular basis for millennials to share and hashtag. They also actually invite them to engage. In one example, there's walks for so many causes out there. So to walk on their team during the Support for Children walk, and they hand out T-shirts to those who attend. That's an example. Bottom line, millennial buying trends are trickling into Generation X and baby boomers. The reason is those people are their parents and grandparents. And make no mistake about it, millennials share their thoughts. They are also the most vocal, and they will call you on the carpet for being engaged in a brand that is what they consider harmful. To go back to, you want to be the least harmful. So we ask you to embrace your purpose, but embrace it with enthusiasm and pride. And some last questions that I would say, I would suggest that you just go with your team and talk about is, are your current millennial employees on board and aware of your purpose? And did they engage with it? If they don't, I would find out why. and find out what do they say about it, why does it need to be changed, because they're your information. Is purpose part of your brand promise? And then go through the same vetting as you did in habit number 8. Vet your social and your website for language, for videos, for call to actions, and engagement opportunities that are all related to your purpose. Do you have any questions, Doug? Does that make sense to you?
Oh, yeah, that's great. Well, I did have one question. As I hear about social networking and we're talking about millennials, I struggle with the same thing as like which social networks do I get on? If I wanted to start doing this, do I have to be on Twitter and Pinterest and Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook, or is there a place where you recommend that we start?
I think that's an excellent question. We always say if the millennials are a big part of your market, if that's a huge part of your market, then you have to go where millennials are. If it's your upcoming market, so maybe it's not like maybe your market is seniors, but it's not exactly where you are right now, that you ease into some of the platforms. So what I can tell you is Instagram is the #1 growing platform for millennials. So millennials aren't necessarily on Facebook, but some of them are. So there's no one defined answer, but if you're not on anything, what we'll do is we'll look at your core market, show you the statistics that, okay, here's where they're at, and let's get started with this one, and let's ease in the rest of them. Because the truth is millennials are on most of them, but we can look at where they're at the most. So LinkedIn, for example, is for millennial professionals, they're on LinkedIn. So you need to be on LinkedIn. And a lot of people use LinkedIn personally, but they don't use it they don't use it from a business aspect. Like they don't have a business page. They're not out there promoting it properly. So yes, there's definitely a strategy behind it, and it really depends on where you're at currently with regards to how fast you can get up and running on all of those purposefully. Because like on Instagram, one of the big issues that we run into, and we run into this as an organization too, is they want to get under the covers with you. They don't want stock photos, and they want a picture of you. Like we should be taking a picture of us right now doing this webinar, which we'll do, and post it on Instagram, not a canned photo. Yeah, you understand?
Yeah.
So that is the difference. But it's really actually very fun, and it's not difficult. So I think that's a great question. So I think, we want to be really respectful of everybody's time, whether you're listening to this on a recording or not. We want to keep it within your lunch hour. But let's open up. We have a couple questions for you, Doug. So we'll say 2 of them, and then we'll get out of here under an hour. How do you recommend that somebody listening starts with the daily huddle implementation? That's my question too. I think that's a great one.
Well, I think you got to start. The first place you have to start at the top. If the CEO and the leadership team is not going to have a daily huddle, then it's hard to make this stick. So you've got to do it first. You've got to see the value of it. And again, the daily huddles are like a minute per person. So if you have 8 people in the room, it's an 8-minute call. If you have people who are traveling, have it set at one time every day, all the time, so people can call in. But and again, we have agendas that we can work with you on that. But I think the idea is start at the top and find the value in doing that. That's where I would start.
Okay, that's an excellent question. I love that one. And I'm going to ask this one because of the questions coming in. This one really is something I need help with too. And it says, we're weak around accountability. How do we get started?
Well, again, I think the execution and accountability, we say there's those 3 disciplines, right? There's your priorities. It's determining what is that is most important things that we need to work on. And then you got to measure it. You need to know if you're delivering on your priorities or not. And then finally, it's it's having these communication rhythms established where, you know what, if you're behind, you guys talk about it as a group and as a team in your weekly meeting or in a monthly meeting and say, we're behind, who can help me? Because you're committed to accomplishing these results. So it's really about what are your priorities, don't have too many, and then what are your metrics, and then have a regular communication rhythm that's continuing bringing up what's our progress? Are we, ahead, behind, or where we need to be?
Right. Okay. Excellent. Well, it is 12:51, and I think we'll stop there. I think that's good. I'm going to let Doug wrap this up, and we will send you on your way.
All right. Well, thank you, Angie. I appreciate you helping and participating in this webinar. So again, great execution efficiently will convert your top line revenue into profits. So that's why it's so important that you're great at execution. But as I share with these Rockefeller habits, it requires discipline and focus. It's taking one of those habits and instilling it within your organization like they did at Alcoa. So just to highlight, here is the bonus I like to offer for everyone that's on the call or will listen to the recording, is we offer a 4 decisions mini assessment. So we would look at your people, your strategy, your execution, which is kind of what we covered, and then cash. You would take this assessment. The assessment would give you a score which says, okay, these decisions are the 4. Which ones are your strong points? And then which ones do you have opportunities for improvement or opportunities for growth? So if you want to participate in that, just send me an email at doug.hershey@thoughtiq.com. The email's on your screen. And just send that to me. And once you complete it at your convenience, I'll follow up, and we'll just have a quick 60-minute discussion on the results and what we found. And then I just want to share this too. If any of you have questions for Angie regarding what she went over, feel free to send me an email as well and just say, hey, I got something I want to talk to Angie about. Again, doug.hershey@thoughtiq.com, and I'll see that she gets it. So I think that's it for the day. We certainly appreciate your participation, and thanks again for joining us today. We'll see you all later.